Alright guys, welcome to Autosave episode 10. If anybody's been following me, I'm pretty sure you're wondering why I have not recorded the next episode in a while, and I promise you I have a good reason. There has been a lot of things going on in my personal life that I'm going to get into. I'm actually going to start our agenda with that. I'm going to go into a lot of Switch 2 controversial details and news that came out after the reveal. And I'm also gonna go into some Marvel Rivals stuff that came up over the past week that I was that I was out. So without further ado, I say I was out like I was out of work, but that I was out of not being able to record or to podcast for you guys. So without further ado, let's get into autosave episode 10. Drum roll, please. Okay. So now why wasn't I able to record the pod? So over the not this past weekend, but the weekend prior, my wife got really sick, and then my son got a little sick, so I wound up having to keep him home. I kept him home Monday and Tuesday while my wife recovered. My wife was like bedridden, and then I kind of had to work. My wife was sick. I had to take care of my son. I still reached out to his school to get his homework. I had to work with him in his homework. I had to make sure that the house was taken care of, which I don't think I did the best job at, but I tried. Salute to all my single moms and dads out there. You guys have the hardest job in the world, especially if you're a working parent, having to work, take care of the household, take care of the baby. Toughest stuff. So salute to y'all. Now I know where the frustrations, aggravation, and just overall tiredness comes from. On top of already being an adult, it's rough. So shout out to y'all. But yeah, that's why I didn't get to record. I would have recorded this on Saturday. I'm recording this on Sunday, but I didn't get to because it was my brother's birthday, and to distract myself, I wind up streaming a lot. I said happy birthday to him, but I try not to dwell on it too much. He's not here. He died at a very young age, and yeah, he would have been my older brother. He would have been 37. So it was it's an emotional day for me. So I try to distract myself as much as possible. Plus, I wanted to make up for not streaming over the past week or so. So I try to catch up on that. So I did a lot of smaller streams while I tried to be with the family and in the house. But yeah, so I'm recorded now. You should see this on Monday. And again, I apologize for missing out on a week. I also apologize I don't have a spooky horror story segment for you guys today because of how tough the week was. I didn't get to prep or set that up. So yeah, I apologize beforehand. The next pod should be more well put together, but this one, I just wanted to make sure this one got out because I didn't want anything to be inconsistent. But without further ado, let me get into a lot of the Switch 2 news. If you guys saw last week, I did a live reaction. I did a surprise live reaction for everybody. It was a long form video, so I don't think a lot of people saw it unless you really follow me. But I had to stay off Twitter, internet, etc., everything, so that I can keep surprises to myself, so I can watch it and put out some sort of content. But I want to get into a lot of the Switch 2 news and the controversy surrounding it. So this article comes from Rebecca Valentine over on IGN. Of course, I'm gonna have the links in the description as always, but Nintendo, a lot of people had controversy with the price of the console. So up here, if you see from the article, we have the price of everything, including the games and including the accessories for the console. It looks like the Switch 2 itself is $450. If you get the Switch 2 with the Mario Kart World Bundle, it comes out to a total of $500, which is pretty expensive for a Nintendo console, at least from my history of being buying Nintendo consoles. This is a big shocker because they're known as like one of the more affordable, but based on the last trailer, it seems like they got a lot more horsepower in this one, and they really focused on that. It's not world breaking on what they did, but it's still a very large portion of horsepower in the console versus the Switch 1, which was clearly dated. I was playing my Switch 1 today, and just even the load times took forever. So I'm excited for the Switch 2 from a hardware spec and being a Nintendo fan, but this price is kind of steep for a lot of people, even for me, especially with, you know, especially if you have kids and, you know, your kids enjoy playing video games and you have to buy more than one. This thing is gonna cost me maybe $1,000 for me and my son, which is like buying a mid-range graphics card nowadays with the price of everything. But this price and the price of the games, if you look, Mario Kart World is $80 if you buy it by itself. So if you don't get the bundle, they're telling you you're gonna wind up paying $30 more just for the game. Why? Who in the world knows? But Doug Bowser did do an interview, which we'll get into in a bit, where he explained trying to back up the reason for this pricing. But even the Joy-Con 2 controller pair, it is $90, right? That's, you could finally buy the dock separate. I don't know if you could with the Switch 1. I've never looked to see if you could buy just a dock, but even the dock separate is $110. It's kind of crazy how expensive everything is. And they're almost like forcing you to buy that bundle, because if you don't buy that bundle, you're gonna want to pay even more for the game and the console by itself. So it's pretty steep, and a lot of people aren't happy about this. Look, even in the article, it goes on to say, and I quote, "Phew, that's a lot to dish out to play Nintendo games. Even assuming most people are just going for the console, a game or two, and maybe a spare controller. Most notable in that list of prices is what's going on with the console itself. $450 isn't far off what a bunch of analysts told me the system was likely to cost when I asked them earlier this year. They predicted $400, but a few said it could go higher depending on the various economic and technological factors," end quote. Now, I bring up that quote because I want to talk about another article from IGN, this one written by Rachel Weber, where they go into how the tariffs have affected both pricing and may have affected both pricing and the pre-order of the console. So, if anybody's seen the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal, you saw that pre-orders were supposed to be open on April 9th, right? On April 9th, the world was supposed to be able to pre-order, but now it's only Japan that's able to pre-order April 9th, and this is due to the tariffs. So I know my camera's in the way, right? But I want to read this quote from the article. Quote, "Gamers shared a collective howl of pain last week when the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order date went from April 9th to who the hell knows. After import tariffs enacted by President Trump sent financial markets spiraling, and the issue has spread across the border, Nintendo Canada confirmed that pre-orders are also delayed there, so you can forget all about making a pre-order via your cousin that lives in Winnipeg. Pre-orders for Nintendo Switch 2 in Canada will not start on April 9th, 2025, in order to align with the timing of pre-orders to be determined in the US, Nintendo of Canada said in a statement to a Canadian tech site. Nintendo will provide updated information at a later date. The launch date of June 5th, 2025 is unchanged." So, if anybody's been keeping up, it looks, I got this article a couple days back, but more recently they revealed that the pre-order date, I think in the interview with Doug Bowser, is going to be on May 8th. But still, the launch date doesn't change, so that doesn't give you too much time to try and get the console before the release date if you want to try and beat out scalpers. Now, this is big because you know that depending on, first off, a lot of people that I know personally and in the gaming, that I don't know a lot of people in the gaming industry, but I know of from watching them in the gaming industry, have been waiting for the Nintendo Switch 2 for a long time, right? Because the console has been dated, you know, and it just needed an overall hardware refresh. Now, a lot of people who played the console at the Switch 2 reveal and were able to actually get their hands on it, loved it, loved the way it felt, loved the way the controller felt, loved how smooth the gameplay was. And even from the Switch 2 reveal, you could tell that they put a lot into the, like I spoke about earlier, into the horsepower of the console. But there's a few things that are rubbing people the wrong way. One, the price is already rubbing the people the wrong way. Why is the price rubbing the people the wrong way? Because as I said earlier, the Nintendo Switch, or Nintendo in general, is usually known as the affordable console. So the fact that, you know, because they put this horsepower, they're charging, making people pay extra, people are genuinely frustrated. I think I saw on Digital Foundry they compared the hardware to something like a Nvidia 3080. If anybody knows, that's probably that's not probably, it is stronger than a PS4, but it's like a PS4 Pro level, maybe a little more. No, I'm tripping. I want to say maybe a PS5. But yeah, so they kind of compared it to that, or at least that's what I've been hearing. I can't remember if it was from Digital Foundry or where I heard that from. Don't quote me on that. It might not be from Digital Foundry, but I heard it from somewhere that they're comparing it to like a 3080, 3070, like in terms of like how it felt when you played the game. The frame rates felt smooth. Even the game update refreshes such as Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom felt smooth, and it's probably the reason why they went so heavy attacking certain Switch emulators that were being released on PC, because they were already working on the new hardware. But basically, from this article, it looks like Nintendo has also put into place a higher pricing because of President Trump's tariffs, alongside President Trump's increase on goods coming into the US. So because of that, we wind up, us gamers wind up having to suffer. I mean, the whole world suffering because of this, a lot of this. So either way, it is what it is. What can we do about it but weather the storm at this point, right? And hope things get better. But I did see that there was some protests going on in front of the Nintendo store down in Manhattan, and I heard it had something to do with this. So I don't know. It's an interesting time we live in, especially now that politics are affecting. I mean, politics have always affected everything, but now that they're affecting some of the more niche cultures, because gaming has exploded in terms of the amount of money it brings into the economy, right? As it popularized over the years, as digital technology stuff popularized in general, but gaming has been one of the biggest markets, right, that exploded, and it's just very interesting to see like the time we live in and how these prices, man, having to pay $500 for me and my son is gonna be, oof. Because I know if I get one, my son is gonna want one, and I'm not gonna not get him as long as he's doing what he gotta do. He knows I got him. But yeah, these are some great articles you guys should definitely check out. I'm gonna link them in the description. And yeah, it's just an interesting read and everything going on. But I want to get into the Nintendo president's response on the pricing and what he had to say. So this is Nintendo of America's president, Doug Bowser. If anybody knows, Reggie Fils-Aimé is no longer the Nintendo president. I think it's been for a couple years now. But I want to read off a quote from here and talk about some of the things that they talked about in this interview. And I quote, Nintendo on Wednesday unveiled details for the Switch 2. It'll include a bigger screen and controllers, and is a faster version than its predecessor, which sold more than 150 million units since its 2017 release. The Switch 2 will hit store shelves on June 5th for $449.99, up from $300 for the original Switch. Like the first Switch, gamers will be able to use the Switch 2 as both a handheld console and hook it up to a television. Nintendo on Friday said it would delay pre-orders for the device following President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs. The device will launch with the game Mario Kart World. Other games coming for Switch 2 include Donkey Kong Bonanza, Street Fighter 6, The Dust Bloods, and Kirby Air Riders. Now, I want to listen to a bit of the article. I don't know if you guys can hear. To a small snippet on an article. Sorry, it's gonna be a slight cut because I was trying to find the snippet, but where he talks about the pricing, and I want to get into that. Let me make sure that you guys are able to actually hear, because I usually separate my audio, because I don't like to get have my audio on, especially when I'm streaming or I'm recording, because everything gets copyrighted. But this article comes from Teddy Farkas over on CNBC, and I'm gonna have a link to that. And this is where him and Doug Bowser he was having an interview with Doug Bowser, as I said, Nintendo president of America, and he gets into some of the reasoning for the pricing. So here we go.
As we're recording this, the president of the United States right now is announcing his tariffs. You and so many other executives are pulling their hair out, trying to figure out, how do I price my products? How did that come into play as you're deciding how to price the Switch 2 here in the United States?
Yeah. As we priced the Switch 2, the price we announced today of $449 for the single SKU, we didn't consider tariffs into that equation. We felt that that was going to be the right price point for our consumers and the right value proposition, if you will, for the device that we're creating. A lot of news today. We're still all trying to really understand it better and understand what possible impacts, may rise from that. But nothing I can really add to, today's discussion around pricing.
So it looks like, according to the article, it looks like what he's stating, and this sounds more business than anything, is that the tariffs don't have anything to do with it. It does have to do with the delay of pre-orders, but not the pricing. I mean, I could see that with the amount that the hardware costs not being too crazy, but I find it hard to believe that tariffs don't play a role, because as we saw from the IGN article, analysts predicted it would be about $400. I think that extra $50 has something to do with the tariff costs. I don't think that they would make it as close. I think Nintendo as a company would try to avoid, unless, their mindset has shifted over time, try to avoid marking something at about $500, and he uses the word value proposition, and I know later on in the video, I don't want to show the full video, he talks about that when it comes to the games, like, and how they price the games. So according to I was watching a few YouTube channels on this. According to the president, he mentioned something about, like, what they did was for pricing of the games, so something like a Mario Kart World, they looked at how much value, how much repeated value, or how much replayability a game is going to have to bring to a customer, and then that's how they wind up pricing that game. Like, what does it bring to the customer that will allow them to keep playing over and over, and how much can we squeeze out of somebody based on the amount of times that they're going to be able to enjoy this game. So that's why his reasoning for Mario Kart World being $80, I find it extremely scary. And here's why: because if people start buying games at $80, I don't know if anybody remembers during 2020 when everybody was buying a Switch and everybody was buying computer parts and computer hardware and getting into PC gaming. A couple of my friends, when that happened, the prices from GPUs never went back down. So GPUs are graphics cards, right, that you put in a PC. They never went back to any sort of normalcy, because companies saw that, like, hey, they're willing to buy at this price. People are willing to pay this much money for this stuff. Why would we ever drop our prices? Let's just charge these exorbitant amount of prices if people are willing to buy it. So I think that if games come out at $80 and people continue to buy those games at $80, it's going to become normal. Then what happens when that becomes normal? Games are going to be super expensive. Games are already a luxury. They're going to be even more of a luxury than they were then. So it's very scary, and you know what else makes it scary is that Nintendo is not only usually a trendsetter when it comes to the gaming market, but they never lower their prices, and they usually have a firm stance on that. So I want to see how long this lasts, if people actually go crazy and buy the game at the $80 price tag, which is going to be like $85 after tax. Jesus, $85 for just a game. It's gonna be $85 after tax, probably $86. And I want to see if people actually buy it, protest it, or if they're going to not buy, like, lower the price because of fan backlash. Because a lot of people have been, sorry I paused there for a minute, but I had to find the right words without sounding because I don't want to sound facetious or like a negative Nancy, but this is serious stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if this becomes normal and every other company does that, this hobby is gonna go through the roof. I mean, I already have a hard time buying games at full price. I don't think I would ever buy a game at full price if that becomes the normal, and that's why I said that most people are gonna have to wind up buying that $500 bundle to save on the $30 and to have the game. But we'll see what happens. Not a lot I can get into on there outside of this. As more news comes through the further podcast, I'll try. Oops, sorry about that. I'll try to have it in there. My big nose hit it. But yeah, not much else I can say on that. All right, I want to get into the next news. The next news has to do with Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. Yes, the game announced a couple of years ago that a lot of people thought would cancel for mobile. It's not canceled. So apparently the game is still being worked on. The lead programmer, as you see here, this article comes from The Gamer, written by George Foster. The lead programmer shares an update through his portfolio and confirms the game is not canceled. So as anybody knows, this game is supposed to take place, I want to say it's supposed to take place after Dark Road, the other cell phone games that explain about the 7 original masters, led into your player character. This is spoilers becoming Zehanor, how Zehanor went on a journey and the reasons why, about the 7 darknesses, original darknesses, which I would assume probably going to be the 7 sins, the master's plans, etc. I'm assuming this game is supposed to tie into a lot of more of the back history as to what happened to Scala Ad Kaim, and then how that all leads into the idea of the other side of reality that Sora's on. I don't think it's gonna, I think it's gonna explain a lot of stuff, but I don't think it's gonna get into Kingdom Hearts 4, because I think the closest we got to that was in Melody of Memory. If anybody beats that game, you'll see that at the end Riku travels to Quadratum whilst Kairi goes to try to get stronger. Riku goes to try and find Sora, which explains at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. It's a lot to explain in terms of the game, but the game is still being worked on. It looks like his portfolio was updated. It looks like there's a lot that's going on. They're using Unreal Engine 5, which kind of makes me eek at the thought of that, because Unreal Engine 5 on a cell phone, I don't know how that's gonna work, as you know, Unreal Engine 5, other developers have already had problems, like weird glitch problems, or like if your PC or your console is not strong enough. Well, I wouldn't say consoles, because consoles are gonna limit what they can do based on what's presented to them. But if your PC is not strong enough, right, in the future for Unreal Engine 5 stuff, you're gonna struggle playing these kind of games. It is what it is. Because I heard that Kingdom Hearts 4 is also being developed on Unreal Engine 5, but it looks like this is also being developed. As everybody knows, this game was announced 3 years ago, and while it has had a bunch of updates, you know, while it hasn't had a bunch of updates, I misquoted. Well, not quoted, but I missaid there. It hasn't had a bunch of updates, but you know, it's been missing for a while, and it got delayed into 2025. And then, you know, there was no news of it. It was supposed to already be out, and a lot of people thought it was canceled. But here is the update from the portfolio of the lead programmer. It's being made on Unreal Engine 5. It started development in 2019, and it was initially pitched by the Union Cross producer. As you see, there's a whole slew of information here. It looks like it's going to be for iOS and Android. As we're talking about, it's a phone game. And they have a couple of pictures here. I'm gonna have the link in there if anybody wants to check it out. But you know, it's pretty cool that we got some sort of update after 3 years. As you know, Square is always notably silent on Kingdom Hearts for whatever reason. But yeah, for all my Kingdom Hearts fans out there, don't give up hope. The game is still coming. It's in the works. Now, this one's gonna be a little weird. I have 2 news. I want to get into the next segment because I just wanted to give hope to my Kingdom Hearts fans. Yeah, Mike, I'm talking to you. That's me being Mike. If you know, you know why I said that. But I want to get to some Marvel Rival news. One is negative, one is a leak that came out. So first and foremost, it looks like Marvel Rivals is being sued. At least the company behind Marvel Rivals. This I took a snapshot from my phone because I saw it on Instagram, but it looks like NetEase sued a $900 million lawsuit. Marvel Rivals producer, and I quote, Marvel Rivals producer NetEase is being sued for $900 million by Jeff Strain, executive producer of Guild Wars, State of Decay, co-creator, and briefly led programmer on World of Warcraft. Now, I don't have the article, unfortunately, but when I read into this, what I found out is that this is coming out of that company, Jeff Strain, the company behind, you know, Guild Wars, State of Decay, etc., stating that NetEase themselves have made defamatory and untrue comments about their company, and so they're suing them. NetEase has released a statement saying that they're going to do everything in their power to fight this and this is all basically everything that they're saying is false. So it's just an interesting thing that, you know, they start to get a successful game and this comes out. And I honestly think this is another PUBG Fortnite situation. If anybody remembers way back in the day, the developers of PUBG were suing Epic for Fortnite, stating that they basically stole their design or whatever. I think this comes out of the success of NetEase, and if any company could have sued them, I don't think it was I don't think it's this company, because I haven't heard, or at least unless I've been living under a rock, if somebody could provide me some articles of any place that NetEase have made any sort of defamatory comments towards this company or Jeff Strain. But if anybody could sue them, it is Blizzard and Overwatch, right? Because they kind of like, well, of course Marvel is such a large, popular, huge IP, but the concept of the hero shooter, they kind of, and a lot of what you see, they kind of stole the groundwork from. This basically Overwatch 3 in some ways. But yeah, I thought this was interesting because it came out of nowhere, you know. And like I said, I'm of the opinion this is only happening because of how successful NetEase is from Marvel Rivals. But tell me what you guys think. As always, I want to hear what everybody has to say. Next, I want to get into a link that came out over on Twitter. I said a link. Sorry, a leak that came out over on Twitter, and it looks like Ultron is coming to the roster on May 30th along with a new map, Araco. If anybody read House of X, Dawn of X, Age of X, written by Jonathan Hickman, you know what Araco is. Araco was basically Krakoa before Krakoa. It's like the secret world inside of Krakoa where Apocalypse's original horsemen and stuff live and reside. If anybody knows anything about Araco, you also know that they have one of the most OP mutants in there, where their power is literally to win. Like they'll never lose. Like that's their power. But yeah, interesting story. But you guys should definitely check it out. If you can support comic books. Comic books are struggling, but I'll have the link to this in the description. There was also a leak, but I don't want to post that photo because I don't know how 100% sure the leak is, but apparently he's a support with a couple interesting abilities where he could call out drones that'll heal people. He has a fast flight that he can cancel, so he can like speed through and then stop. And he has something where he can like hit the ground instantly, like he's in a fight and just go to the ground. I guess that's to stop people like, you know, my guy Spider-Man from just diffing him and just deleting him. But yeah, this May 30th, interesting. It looks like it's gonna be season 2.5. I wonder what changes we're gonna see. If we're gonna be seeing nerfs to Emma, my god, Emma in Marvel Rivals has been so annoying, only because of people fighting over her. Like literally when she first came out, yeah, she hasn't been out that long, but first couple of days it was rough because literally people were just rushing to pick her, and if they didn't get her, they were quitting. But they were throwing matches. It was the worst kind of disgusting behavior ever. But yeah, that's all that I have. That's all that I have today. I hope that everybody enjoyed the podcast for today. Like I said, unfortunately, I don't have a horror story this week. I'm gonna do better the coming week and try to have one. But I don't know. Did I ever? No. I did reveal, right, the truth of the last one. Yeah, I did. I'm not crazy. I know I did that. I was supposed to do a new horror story today. But yeah, if anybody's still keeping up, you know, I love you guys. I love the support. Seriously. Hopefully this week is better than last week because I was super exhausted. But yeah, love, peace, chicken grease. Like I always say. You don't need a memory card. You don't need a thumbstick, NVM drive, none of that stuff. It's guess what? Well, you kind of need a drive for us to autosave. But guess what? I'm gonna save it for you here. This is autosave episode 10. Appreciate y'all. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and everybody have a good night.